Hey everyone. So I did a video that recently I published of the top 20 palettes for fall. And then of course, Victoria Beckham came out with Coco and ABH came out with a new palette, and they would be great entries for fall. So I guess that's my fault for trying to plan ahead. And we have a new palette today to look at from Anastasia Beverly Hills, as well as some other new products that have come out. 2 new highlighters, a new blush, and some lip products that are not necessarily new, but they're new to me. So if swatching, reviewing, getting my thoughts, and coming up with a couple of looks sounds good to you, then I really would appreciate it if you would subscribe to my channel. Like the video, follow along, shop my links, and all that good stuff. Unsolicited advice on Instagram and on YouTube. So a little bit about me. I've got sort of light to medium skin. I'm about a 2.5 for reference in Dior. Although today I'm wearing Givenchy, the Glow Serum Foundation. And you'll have to forgive my dryer because, as you know, I'm always doing laundry. But I have mine in the shade 2N. And I also am using the Givenchy Glow. Actually, no, it's just the Givenchy Prisme Libre concealer. And I threw on a little bit of the YSL bronzer. But otherwise today, we've got a clean slate because we have a new palette to look at, as well as some other new products. The new palette is from Anastasia Beverly Hills, and it's the Embers palette. And I'm a little conflicted about it. I'll put the swatches up here. They're beautiful colors, don't get me wrong. But much like the new Makeup by Mario palette, they're subdued. They're much more subdued than past versions. I mean that saying, well, I guess it was 2022 and 2023, maybe some of 2021, we got these gorgeous new reformulated Anastasia Beverly Hills palettes. It started with Primrose, and then there was Nouveau, which was this one. There was a Rose Metals, there was Cosmos, and Fall Romance. And all 5 of these are excellent palettes. And I remember in 2022 that this particular one, Nouveau, actually was in the top 5 or top palette of the year for many creators, which was kind of a surprise because you don't hear as much about ABH anymore. And then last year, they decided to do something different. They released a few smaller versions of older palettes, but they released a pair of 2 9 pans in the fall, the Sugar and the Spice palette. And I think these went a little bit under the radar, but I think at the end of the year when you watched people's videos, you noticed that these were very high up. And a lot of that reason why was because it had some great mattes and metallics, but it had these beautiful like duochrome toppers, very sparkly. This was the, what's it called? Spice palette. And it really surprised me with these beautiful duochrome sort of topper sparkly shadows. And I think they surprised a lot of people because I think that Spice might have sold out and Sugar was equally beautiful, just with a kind of cooler color story, but some really interesting shades in them that I don't think a lot of people expected. So this year, in that vein, I kind of thought we weren't going to get any ABH palettes. Or at least new palettes. Like I said, they've done some smaller versions of old palettes. And then they recently announced that Embers was coming out. And I thought, well, that's going to be great because I loved the Sugar and Spice palette. And then when I opened it, I was a little surprised because, yes, there are beautifully pigmented mattes and beautiful metallics in here. But there are no duochromes, there's no glitters, there's nothing particularly shiny or statementy, at least until I get them on the eyes. And so I was a little surprised, and it kind of made me think a little bit about the Makeup by Mario palette, because it didn't have those ethereal kind of topper shades with a lot of glitters and sparkles that we loved, and neither does this palette. And honestly, compared to the Makeup by Mario palette, this one's even more sort of subdued, but it is a beautiful color story. And of course, swatches only tell you part of the story. So what I'm going to do is a couple of looks today, then I'll put on mascara and an eyeliner, and then we'll come back and look at some other new products that I have to show you today. The first isn't terribly new. It came out earlier this fall, but it's the extension of the YSL blush line, and I thought that this particular color would look really beautiful with Embers, and it's the color Hot Mauve. So that's what we'll be using today. And then I have two new highlighters to show you today, both kind of in the golden kind of feel. The first one is the new Gucci highlighter, which I really like the Gucci highlighters. They're more of a putty consistency. But this one is in the color Warm Gold, and it's a limited edition color for the holidays. It's a really interesting color. I did a swatch of this yesterday, and then I went outside and I could see little colors, like other colors, sparkles in it. Very, very fine. So it's a beautiful holiday color. And then we have the new Abaraccadior from Dior, which is part of their holiday collection, which this is really the only thing that really interested me. And it's because I love these Forever Glow highlighter luminizer kind of liquid highlighters. And so this is also kind of a goldy white color. And then finally I have, they're not new, they've been out about a year, but they're new to me. I've never tried this brand before, but we have two new lipsticks to try that I think might go well with this palette, and they're from Celine. So I'm really interested to show you these products today, and let's begin with the Anastasia palette. Now I'm going to try to do two sort of dramatically different looks, but the goal of this video is to more show you just kind of all the colors and how they perform in the palette. So I'm going to grab a EyeShadow 00, and I'm going to grab shade number 3. They are numbered 1 through 9, starting over here with 1 and ending down here with 9 if I forget. So I'm going to grab shade 3, which is kind of a mauve-y, sandy brown color. And it's a matte, and I'm going to throw it in my crease. And all I have on my eyes today is a little bit of concealer, and I did powder it down with a little bit of the Prada setting powder. But I did not do any primer because I want to see these at, without any kind of alteration, see how they work. And the nice thing about ABH mattes is, yes, they are a little bit more powdery than some other mattes, but they have so much pigment, and they really have got better and better over time. So I'm just creating a base of this number 3 color and extending it into my crease. And I'm actually going to throw a little bit of that under the eye as well. I have seen some reviews, I'll pull you in a little closer. I have seen some reviews that make it kind of seem like maybe this is a smaller version of a pre-existing palette or something very close from ABH. I don't have that palette, whatever that palette is, but some of the colors do look pretty similar online. Okay, I'm gonna grab shade number 9, which is kind of I guess it's about the darkest matte in here, but it's a reddy brown color. Like I said, this would make that list, if I was doing a list today, of great palettes for the fall, because it's really beautiful. Very pigmented. Let me wipe off any additional color and just see if I can work that out a little bit more. Not a lot of fallout, So that's good. That used to be an issue with ABH, but they seem to have got that together more and more as they've refined their formula. And you know, I don't think they get as much buzz as they maybe used to get, but they do have beautiful products. And they must still sell pretty well because they still have a large presence at Sephora, at Kohl's, Ulta, that sort of thing. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do on this eye is lean into the burgundies and gold shades that are in here. So I'm going to grab number 6, which is a very soft textured metallic, and it is a kind of burgundy color, and I'm going to place that on the outer half of my lid. And that's a pretty one and done color, very dramatic. And on the inner third of the lid, I'm going to place shade number 4, which is also kind of a suede metallic, but it's a little bit more of kind of a coppery color. And I'm just going to blend those two together. This is where I really wish that the palette included a sparkly shade or two, because you can imagine what this would look like with some sort of like gold or coppery kind of sparkle over the top of it. Even the metallics that are in here are not particularly like shifty or anything. It's very straightforward, which some people may actually really like. Okay, that's a very smoky look. So I'm going to actually grab shade number 1, which is a golden kind of metallic color, and put that on the inner corner and bring it up because I want to add some lightness here. This is a heavy palette. There's not a ton of lightness other than that first shade in here. And I'll grab a little bit of number 9, that kind of rusty brown color, and just run that on the outer third. And you can see I'm getting a little bit of fallout, but nothing terribly bad. Well, now I say that, and I've got a little spot there. I'll fix it, because I'm going to have to go in with concealer and clean this up a little bit, because they are so dark and so pigmented. It really could use a beautiful topper to lighten it up. In fact, I think what I'll do is I'll do the whole look so you can see what it would look like. But then I might do, I was going to say maybe I'll throw like a half magic glitter puck or something on top of it. But maybe I won't do that. I want you to really see how these look on their own. I mean, it's a beautiful color story for fall. There's just not a ton of variance in it. Okay, this eye over here. So let me grab a different brush, and I'm going to grab a B03 from Refer, and let's put a base down on this. But on this one, let's do a base starting with shade number 5, which is kind of a terracotta. And I'm going to place this down here on my crease. I'm just kind of creating a wash. These are incredibly pigmented. And they are very soft, I'll give them that, and finely milled. I would compare the mattes in here almost like to a Viseart. And I'm just going to bring this out under the lash line. And you can see it's just a really beautiful pigmented eyeshadow. Throw one of the lighter colors on it and you would have, you know, something just really simple, one and done. Although It's hard, there's not a, unless you used color number 1, it's going to be a very kind of dark look. Okay, so what I'm going to do is grab color number, let me grab a different brush, because we need to be kind of detailed with these because they are so pigmented. I'm going to grab a shadow number 4, and I'm going to grab a little bit of blue number 8, which is, it's a pretty blue. I can't tell if it's a metallic. I guess it's a metallic. It's very subtle, if there is a shine in it. That's what I would say about these metallics in here, is they're very subtle and more suede than metallic. That is a pretty color. And on the lid, you can see there is a little bit more of that sheen. It's very pretty. Okay, so for that inner third portion, let me brush off my brush. Cheeky. I'm going to go in with the green, which is number 7, and it's kind of a olivey, foresty kind of green, and place that on the inner third. And it's also a satin, but you can see it's more like a velvet. They feel very velvety and rich, and they look very velvety and rich, but there's not a ton of shine. Which may be really nice if that's your thing, and they're not terribly emphasizing any, you know, lines or anything, because there's not any real texture. These are all either mattes or these kind of like velvet satins, and so they don't have a lot of texture. I'm going to grab a little bit more of that blue, just a tiny amount, on the Shodo brushes, which if you've never tried these, shop my links and grab these, the Shodo version of the Refers, because they have these super fine points that just make doing eye looks so easy. And then let's see, what colors haven't we used? Well, the only color we haven't really used is shade number 2, which is kind of a caramel color. I guess I can put a little of that in the inside, but it is just kind of a pretty caramely color. What it does is it kind of takes this look to more of like a southwesty kind of look, which is pretty. And then again, shade number 1 is the lightest in here, and it's what I would have to use as an inner eye color for that inner corner, and I'll bring it up as well. It's probably actually the shiniest color in here as well. I think what I'm going to do is grab Pat McGrath's Black Coffee and a brown YSL Lash Clash, since we're going to go very autumnal here. Put those on, and then I'll come back and we can look at the final look and look at some of those new base products. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, so I threw on mascara and liner, both in dark brown colors, and you can see here that they are very pretty looks. I will say they're a little muddy. And I think that that's not because the colors aren't beautiful and they're not highly pigmented, but there's not a ton of variance in them. There's not any that are severely lighter or severely darker than the others. They're all kind of the same depth. And because there's no kind of glittery topper shades, it's all kind of the same depth, and it reminds me a lot, looking at it, to the Viseart Dark palette. And I grabbed this just to show you that if you own the Viseart Dark palette, you could definitely achieve a similar look. And you get 3 more shadows, but you can see that they are somewhat similar. It also has a lot of colors that are kind of similar to the mattes that are in Metropolis by Natasha Denona, which is a beautiful fall palette. But yeah, it's just an interesting choice that they made here to have mattes and then have these super soft kind of suedes. But even it'd be hard to classify anything other than maybe that first one as a metallic. They're very, they're beautiful, don't get me wrong. It's just, I like a little bit more variety, and that's what I love so much about Sugar and Spice. But look, if you're looking for a fall palette that is easy to travel with, has 9 beautiful shades and shadows that work well with the season, pumpkin, burgundy, blue, green, gold, then this is a beautiful palette. I just personally like to see a little bit more variance and shine, and I hope that ABH goes back to that. But it's a nice addition. Okay, so we've done that. So let's look at some of the new face and base products that we have. And the first one is not new. I believe it came out in around August. I've had it a little longer, but it is, where's my brush go? Fascinating. How can one lose a brush that they haven't even had out? This is my age showing. Okay, I'll grab another one. So this is the YSL blush extension. And between, I don't know, there's maybe like 15 or 16 colors of this now. A lot of them haven't released in the United States. But I do have a video up on my website or on Instagram, if you go look, of all the shades, because I've been lucky enough to be able to collect the ones that are only available in Asia or Europe. So you can see how these compare. This fall, 3 new shades came out, and one of them is called Hot Mauve, and it's a really beautiful color, and I thought it would go well with this look. So these are fairly powdery. So I'm just going to throw some of this on. Like I said, I also have YSL bronzer on, I believe in the shade 2. But you can see this is a beautiful kind of neutral mauve color that really does look pretty for fall. And it does go really nicely with that palette. Okay. I sure hope I find that brush I'm missing. Okay, so I have 2 new highlighters to show you today. The first is from Gucci, and I really like the Gucci highlighters. Some people don't like them, and I think that I've figured out the reason why a lot of people don't like them is because they're using the wrong brush. You can't use a fan brush. You can't use something light. You have to use either something extremely dense, or my preferred way of doing it is to use my finger and grab some of the product, place it, and then use a brush to buff it in. Because the Gucci highlighters are kind of a putty texture. See how it holds my imprint there? Which is very unique. And they came out with maybe 5 of these towards the end of last year. And they've added 2 for this holiday season. Now the Gucci blushes are my favorite, and last year they gave us 2 extensions for the holiday of the blushes. Well, this year they decided to go with the highlighters, which I do love, but I would have loved to have seen some of those blushes, but it is what it is. So what I like to do, and we'll do on this side, is I like to take my finger and grab, kind of slide it across this putty and get a good amount of this. Imagine if this was in that ABH palette. Like, that's a light goldy color that could have been even more impactful than this. But I just place it and see how I have those dots and it looks kind of silly. But then what I do is I will just grab a brush and buff it in. And I find that that is the best method with these, and you can certainly do more. Or to use a super dense brush, because they are so putty-like. But you can see there as the light hits it, there's a beautiful shift there. And you know what I'm gonna do is kind of overdo it a little bit, just so it really appears. You know, highlighters are, and you can use just your fingers. Highlighters are about the hardest thing you can film because of the light. But I've really overdone this one here, just so you can see. It's a beautiful goldy colored highlight. Really pretty. It's a warm gold. I like that color a good amount. On the other side, we have from the Forever Glow Maximizer line of liquid highlighters, and they're kind of liquid blushes too, some of the shades, or even bronzers, because they have such a variety. I think there's like 12. Well, this is a limited edition for the holiday called Abaraccadior. So my Lady Gaga fans will love this. My best friend loves Lady Gaga. But it's kind of a white gold. It looks like it's got some pink in it. Just, you know, kind of interesting for the holidays. So I'm going to place that on this side. Couple of dots, and I really like these. And I'll take a brush and gently work that in as well. And their collection this holiday season, this was really the only thing that interested me, but it's kind of circus themed, which I think is cool. You can see right off the bat that has a lot of impact, and it's got kind of a pink flip, but it's also quite gold as well. And there are sparkles. So if you're not a fan of sparkles, I might suggest the Gucci one, because I do see some visible glitters here, but I don't really mind that, especially for the holidays. Okay, both of those are very nice. I like that quite a bit. That's actually a really beautiful color. The more I'm looking at it, but there are sort of some pink visible sparkles. So if you hate sparkles in your highlighter, then these are probably not the ones for you. I will say there is a variety of colors of this, maybe 12 now, and some of them are very glittery, which this one's pretty glittery, and then some of them are not at all. So I think it just kind of depends on the color. I found that the lighter ones, like the white version of this, is quite glittery, but then when you get to like the nudes, they're not quite as glittery. So I don't know what that's about, but it's a beautiful color nonetheless. So the last thing we have to try today is lipsticks, and these have not been out too long, maybe about a year, but Celine came out with a line of about 12 lipsticks, and I've always wanted to try them, especially now that I've got some of the LV lipsticks and some other high-end lipsticks, just to see how they compare. And so I grabbed one lipstick and one refill, and I just kind of wanted to show you what they look like in case you've never tried the Celine lipsticks. They have a hand cream and they have lipsticks. That's kind of the extent of their beauty line. But they are beautiful. They come in this velvet pouch, which is kind of like the one that LV comes in. It's not quite as tight as that one, but it's also not quite as nice as that one. It does have an embossing of the Celine logo. And then they come in this beautiful sort of heavy but not too heavy packaging. It's this kind of gold color. It's got the Celine emblem on the top, and then on the bottom it does list the shade information, and it appears that these are made in France. Yes, made in France. So I grabbed two colors and I just wanted to show you them today. The first color I grabbed is a lighter color, and I don't know that it necessarily will go great with this lip color, or this eye color, sorry, but I wanted to show it to you anyway. And I also wanted to show you how these refill, because they refill very nicely. They just, well, I say that, but you can just pull it out and it's just kind of a plastic bullet, kind of like the Valentino ones, and it locks into a locking device. These are not like the Louis Vuittons. You know, there is plastic, there are stickers, but they're very nice. They're done very well. And they're also not the price of the Louis Vuitton. I believe these are $70 a piece and $50 for the refill. So they, in comparison, feel like something that's about half the weight, which would make sense since the Louis Vuitton ones are $160 for the lipstick and something like $60 for the refill. That actually feels like a beautiful, you know, keepsake component, where this just feels like a lovely component. It is beautiful though. So this first shade I have to show you is, they're all called, oh God, let me grab my magnifying glass. I'm turning into one of these people now. The first one I have is, oh God, La Peau. I'm not kidding. It is La, L-A-P-A-P-E-A-U, La Peau. So it's a kind of dusty nude color, La Peau. And so let's see what this one looks like. That's a pretty nude everyday color. They feel really creamy. They feel thin, but they do grip the lips tightly. It's interesting how it feels on the lips. And they're a little bit sticky. They're not slippery. There's a little bit of shine, but it's not too much. Yeah, I like that a good amount. I will say, I don't mind it, but if you're somebody who doesn't like fragrance, these are highly fragranced, with kind of a floral skincare kind of smell to them. But that's a pretty color. I'll do a high-end lipstick video soon and compare this, because I feel like this is similar to an LV color that I have. Maybe New Necessary, I'm not sure, but it's beautiful. You can imagine this with a liner. I'm not going to do a liner today because I really want to show them off, just the color as they are, but that's very pretty. I'm going to take this off and then we'll look at the second color. Okay, so I have the second color, and one thing I noticed that's very strange is, unlike LV, they have the address printed on the bullet, but it doesn't appear. It has a sticker on the bottom that says the shade name of this color, but it's not on the bullet, which is very strange if you wanted to replace them in and out. But then on the refill, it is written on it. I'm not sure what that's about. But the second color here is called Rose ORPHEE, O-P-H-E-E-E, O-P-H-E-E. And so it looks like it's a dark kind of rose color. And I'm very excited about this. I think this is going to be a perfect match. So let's see what this one looks like. Yeah, you can see that that has a similar finish. It's a lightly satin. There goes the... And they're not going to be done because it's sheets. You know they're going to have to run 6 times. But it has more depth of color than the first one. So I'll just compare these two for you on my hand. So this first one is Rose ORPHEE. That's a really pretty color. And they have a pretty dramatic range of colors, all the way to a purple that's almost a black. And then the other one was La Peau. And you can see it's a lighter, kind of nuder version of that first one. But both of those are beautiful colors. So I'd like to get some more of these at some point because they really are nice. The one downside with them is that you can really only get them on the Celine website. They don't really have them anywhere else, at least that I've found. But they have some beautiful colors. And they're a more reasonable alternative to the Louis Vuitton. Although, I don't know. I'm going to have to play with these more to see how they kind of compare. Or how it compares to like a Pat McGrath. I think it feels really nice. But they are a little bit, I don't know. They are blurring, I'll give them that. This is going to take a little bit of a longer review, but at least there you see a couple of colors. And their primary red they have, I think it's like Rose Triumph or something like that. They did give a sample. I'm not going to open it today. Rose Triumph, that is a gorgeous red. So yeah, these are beautiful products. I think that you would like them a lot. So what do we think of the look today? I think it looks really nice. I'm going to take the pictures like I always do in the little video. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to put a topper on these and just show you what it could have looked like had they put a beautiful topper in there. So if you like this content, I would really appreciate it if you subscribe and like the video. A lot of you watch but don't subscribe, and I really would appreciate if you would, because it helps the channel. And then, of course, shop my links and follow along on YouTube and on Instagram, Unsolicited Eyevice. And I will talk to you all soon. I thank you so much for watching. Bye. Okay, so I told you I would come back for shits and giggles just to show you what this would have looked like if they had put one or two beautiful toppers in there. And for comparison's sake, I'm just gonna grab, let's just grab Spice from last year and just show you with a couple of these toppers what this palette could have been. So I'm gonna grab shade number 5 from Spice, which is a beautiful goldy green shifty shade, and I'm going to place that over just the front third and inner eye of this greeny blue look. Let me bring you in a little closer. Now look, maybe you don't like this kind of effect, or you like something that's less textured, and I certainly can understand that at 44 years old. But see the beautiful difference it makes? And if I went really strong on it, that looks really beautiful. And look how much more bold and impactful that look is. I kind of wish they would have included one or two of these beautiful shades. Now, of course, these are not perfectly made for this palette, but at least you kind of get the idea. That could have been really beautiful. On this one, I'm going to grab shade 6 from Spice, which is this pinky gold color that has a little bit of a flip. And I'm going to do the same thing. Just place it over the inner portion, maybe the inner third, and the inner corner. Now, obviously, if you have these palettes, you can mix and match. Though I'm not a big mix and match person, but you could. See how different that makes the look? I wish there were just 2 of those beautifully curated, and I think that this would be an even better palette. So it's just something to think about. Okay, thanks so much, everyone. Bye.